Hi all, welcome to our channel and the usual daily update of the coronavirus situation from here in Shenzhen, China. Just before I start, just like to thank everybody for supporting us, everybody for watching us. If you do feel you want to make a donation to our channel, I'll put the graphics on the screen and the links are down below. But to all those who do, a big thank you. Right, let's get started with the numbers for today. So the confirmed cases are 24,541. The suspected cases are 23,260. We have 492 people who've died and 912 people who've recovered. Today saw one of the biggest jumps in the people that have died, but it also sees a big jump in the people that have recovered. There are, out of that number, there are 178 confirmed cases outside of China. So a majority of cases are still in Wuhan. More than half of them are there. And I have some data, a small amount of data on the people that have died. So the mortality rate in Wuhan is 4.9%. This is much higher than the 2.1%, which is the total in China as a whole. So the average age of people who have died is over 60. And 75% of them had other underlying illnesses. There is now the youngest patient is a baby of 1 month old, and the oldest patient is 90 years old. Wuhan is planning to convert another 8 venues, including gymnasiums, an exhibition centre and some sports centres, into temporary hospitals to help house and relieve pressure on some of the hospitals. They're obviously still struggling in Wuhan simply because of the sheer number of people who are presenting with possible symptoms. Before we go on to any more news, I'd just like to run a video that I found on, it's actually CGTN. Now, my background is in engineering, and I'm just amazed at how they have built just to sort of go back, the second hospital that they are building in Wuhan is almost complete, and I just want to run a short video because it just completely, as I say, my background is engineering. I'm just completely amazed at what they've done here. So take a look at this.
It could be one of the fastest construction projects in the world. The new hospital has been designed and built to provide beds for patients infected by the novel coronavirus. Plans for the hospital have undergone 10 drafts, putting tremendous pressure on the teams working hard to get the hospital up and running.
因为这个时间太紧了，一直是根据我们的这个过程中的一些进度，然后还有这个疫情的这个发展状况来定的。然后我们的 交付时间就是明天，然后我们每天现在是24小时在加班加点的做这个事。
The hospital has been specially designed to prevent medical staff from getting infected. Corridors, wards for patients, washrooms, and semi-contaminated zones have 4 levels of pressure. Air only flows from safe high-pressure areas to lower-pressure areas, which are infected. The system is designed so viruses cannot escape from the wards.
普通医院它不具备这个功能，所以的话，这种交叉感染的风险就非常的高。那么这个专业的传染病房，也是因为就是这个特点，所以的话，我们排风实际上卫生间有一个排风，然后病房有一个排风，然后这个走道有个送风，病房有送风，所以的话，这个整个系统就相当的复杂了。
China adopted a similar design to the newly built hospital 17 years ago to combat SARS, but the technology used these days is even more advanced, raising hopes that it could make a difference on the front lines.
Engineers told me it usually takes 2 years to build a hospital at this scale, but workers say they're using manpower to make it happen in just 10 days. 赵云飞 CGTN 武汉湖北 Province.
I've also got towards the end of the video. There's another short clip it's quite funny actually. It's the way technology is being used to try and stop the spread of the virus. But it made me smile when I watched it. So please stay tuned for that a little bit later on. So news about sort of travel and things. So the first thing here that to make you all aware that the Canton Fair, which is a huge trade exhibition in Guangzhou, has been cancelled. Also, apparently there are now no flights to Manchester in the UK. So if you are leaving China, you need to consider flying to a different airport other than Manchester. An increasing amount of airlines are either cancelling all flights or they are limiting the amount of flights in and out of China. I'll put a graphic up on the screen now, but there are quite a lot, so I'll also provide a link down below to that information. It's actually on Bloomberg, but I think a link will be useful. Okay, some interesting news broke last night or early this morning. That a couple of days ago I spoke in one of my videos about how they'd some scientists or a report in Germany had identified that there was a definite confirmation of person-to-person transfer. However, it's now come to light that the people who compiled that report didn't actually speak to the Chinese woman in question. And another organisation within Germany did eventually trace that woman and did find she actually did. Initially, it was thought that she had no symptoms when she passed on the disease. But it now turns out she was taking some medication to reduce her fever and temperature. So in fact, she did have a fever and a temperature when she passed on that. So it does now bring into doubt whether there is person-to-person passing the virus from person to person when people are not showing any signs. And I think obviously some more research needs now to be done on that. So another one of the problems with this virus is the availability of test kits has been short. There's been an announcement today that 3 facilities in Shanghai, I believe it is, have been approved to do these to manufacture these test kits. So the availability of test kits will get better as these facilities come online and ramp up production. For any UK or French citizens who are watching here in China, the foreign offices of both the UK and France have now suggested that all their citizens get out of China, leave China. You know, I have no idea how many French people here, but there are estimated to be around 30,000 British citizens here in China, and it is because of the flights are being either cancelled or limited. It will start to get increasingly difficult to leave China. So I think if you are thinking about that, it's probably better to do it sooner rather than later. I've had a quick scan around on Google Flights, and it seems at the present time the prices of flights are not increased too much. I think as flights get shorter and more people do want to fly, then there's a potential the prices will rise. But right of now, they don't seem to have risen a great deal. And if you're thinking of going to Macau, if you're a bit of a gambler, then don't bother. All the casinos have been closed in Macau temporarily. I believe it's for a period of 2 weeks at the moment, but that could be extended. Now, one thing I'd like to talk about is there's many businesses here in China who are really going to start suffering. As you saw from Ollie's video yesterday, many places are closed, and the ones that are open have very, very few customers. So it is pretty hard on businesses. I do feel that although it's hard on businesses, not so many will go out of business as would in the Western countries, certainly the UK, because generally China are a nation of savers, so many of those businesses will have money put aside for a rainy day to help them through this. Now, in another YouTuber's video, he was talking about that that the government were looking at a scheme to maybe help or get landlords to give a free period of rent. Well, I've sort of read some sort of articles today that sort of suggesting that landlords are pushing back a little bit against that, simply because a lot of those landlords have loans with the banks that they obviously have to service. So not really sure of the situation, whether that is actually so that the government will force them to give free rental periods. I would imagine, and I'm hoping, that the government will come up with some sort of package of measures to aid these businesses, because it is a really tough time for businesses. There's a very famous hot pot here, Heidi Lau, and they've closed all their restaurants. They do have a ability to be able to deliver their food in to your homes, but they've chosen not to do that, really as a sort of precaution. Really, they've been quite responsible. They worry that if they are delivering food to your home, that there is more potential to spread the virus in it. So they've actually completely shut down their operation temporarily. I think one of the bright areas in this for businesses is online tuition. There's been a massive upsurge in demand for online tuition. Obviously, many of the kids in China are not returning to school or their normal sort of training centres, as they're all closed, and you don't want groups of people getting together. So it is really good news for those companies right now. I guess it's obviously good news for the companies that are producing medical supplies, masks and so forth, etc. And also I would imagine that it's a good time for companies like Tencent who have a huge online gaming division. So many people are stuck at home and bored that I guess a lot of them will be playing games on their phones and on their computers. I'm certainly not getting bored. Researching, making these videos is taking up quite a bit of my time, so that's good. And I'm a big fan of Lego, so I might start building some of my Lego models up soon. I think we do have to exercise some caution on the numbers, and I think this is not because the authorities are trying to cover up the numbers. I think it's down to that there's just simply the hospitals and the facilities in Wuhan are just overwhelmed by the number of potential cases that are presenting themselves. It still appears that and there was some news reports of a couple of smaller cities outside of Wuhan, Shaogan and Huanggang, that are still struggling to get test kits, etc., etc. There's a huge amount of supplies being sent to the area, both from inside China and from countries outside China. And there's also, on a daily basis, there's more personnel from all around China and being sent to the area. So I think that in the next sort of few days, things will start to get better, hopefully, in Wuhan. And as things get better and they become less overwhelmed, I think the numbers will become more and more accurate, one would hope. From what I can see, the cases in the provinces outside of Hubei are not rising anywhere near as quickly as the ones within Hubei. And I think that is all down to the sort of fairly strict measures that are being put into operation in other provinces. I know here in Shenzhen, it is pretty strict now. There's sort of checks everywhere. The movement of people is quite restricted. Of course, you can go out if you want to. There's nobody stopping you from going out, but you know, there is restriction about where you can go. You have to have your temperatures checked entering many different places. I think I mentioned yesterday my complex where I live, outsiders are not allowed to come in and out, only people from who actually live in the complex. And even then we must have our temperature checked both when we come in and when we're going out. They've put sort of cling film over the buttons on the elevators. There's tissues available in elevators, and they are disinfecting things on a fairly regular basis, you know, to cut down. There's a bit of news that the virus was found on a door handle in a premises in Guangzhou. So again, the advice is to just wash your hands often, disinfect everything, you know, that you around as often as you can. Just hygiene as much as possible. I just want to show you this short clip that I mentioned earlier. I think it's kind of funny. It's in some area, I'm not sure what the area is, but they're using a drone to try and persuade some sort of elderly people to wear their masks and, you know, spend as much time as they can indoors. Don't wander around outside if it's not necessary. But it's quite funny watching the people on there, because I don't think they're aware of where the voice is coming from, and they look a little bit scared. So I found it a little bit funny and chuckled to myself when I was there. So take a look.
大德大妈，疫情形势严峻，请做好自我防护，立即回家。大德大妈，疫情形势严峻，请做好自我防护，立即回家。两位大妈，请戴上你们的口罩，赶紧回家，赶紧回家。
So that brings me to the end of another daily update. Thank you all for watching and tuning in. I really hope by sort of doing a much more factual based videos on a daily basis, we try and dispel some of the rumours that the sort of some YouTubers are doing, where they're just trying to spread half truths and maybe panicking people. So share as much as you can. If you like the video, give us a thumbs up. It really helps our algorithm and helps us get out there a little more. Leave comments down below. Always interesting to get involved in some dialogue. If you like the channel, please subscribe, and as always, for now, take care.